Welcome. In this module, we're going to continue with critical security control number 4, which is a very important control, continuous vulnerability assessment and remediation. And we have already mentioned that this particular critical control from CIS also matches with layer 2 or the second layer of our security transformation model. If you look at the, just to remind you, if you look at the overall structure of the 20 critical security controls, we're right now on control number 4, and we've covered about half of it in the previous module, and we'll cover the remaining half in this module. Control 4.5, deploy automated patch management tools and software update tools for operating system and software applications on all systems for which such tools are available and safe. One example of the automated patch management tool is WSUS for Microsoft Windows, for example, and all types of Microsoft systems. So that will automate the entire process and will push out the patches to these Windows servers, and then you can do the scheduling, and then you can have other types of administrative scheduling and other types of administrative controls, which you can implement for the updates. And one other point here important to mention here is that there is software which I've mentioned previously, which is called asset management software, and IBM and other very good organizations, they develop this software, and there's lots of smaller companies that have developed this software, and what they do is that they will help you keep track of all the software which is actually deployed on your systems, and if that software is up to date with the patches that are necessary. So for a very, very wide deployment, which is geographically spread as well, where you have hundreds or thousands of systems and devices, such type of automated asset management software tools, which can also help you track and implement the patching, is very useful, because doing it in a manual manner is next to impossible. Patches should be applied to all systems, even systems that are properly air-gapped, monitor logs associated with any scanning activity, and associated administrator accounts to ensure that this activity is limited to the timeframes of legitimate scans. So when there is a legitimate scheduled scan happening, we should be able to tell from the logs and the activity in the network that this is a scan occurring, which is a legitimate scan, and whenever those type of logs are generated from our network or systems or devices, which show that a scan is happening, and that is not during the time when an authorized scan was supposed to take place, we know that this is something wrong happening, because it's not a scheduled scan by the administrators, and this could be malicious activity, it could be an attack happening. Compare the results from back-to-back vulnerability scans to verify that vulnerabilities were addressed either by patching, implementing a compensating control, or documenting and accepting a reasonable business risk. So, there's 3 ways in which we can respond whenever there's a vulnerability, and that needs to be documented. One is that you patch the system. The other one is that you implement a compensating control, which means that you do not implement the actual control which is suggested to block that vulnerability or patch the system, but you do something else, and which is another option which produces the same results. And the third way is that you accept the risk and get sign-off that yes, this control is not implemented for the particular vulnerability because of so-and-so reason, and you get sign-off from management. Such acceptance of business risks and such sign-off for existing vulnerabilities should be periodically reviewed as well to determine if newer compensating controls or subsequent patches can address vulnerabilities that were previously accepted, or if conditions have changed, increasing the risk. So once you have said that we are not going to implement a particular control and we're going to accept the risk and get sign-off from management, we should not just stay in that situation or stay in that condition, but we should challenge that situation in the future, because we may be able to implement the actual control in the future because of upgrades in our network or upgrades in our systems or changing environment of our network. And whenever we get an opportunity to implement the control, we should remove the sign-off, the business risk acceptance sign-off that we have obtained because we were not going to implement that control. So it's always better to review because situation or conditions may have changed. Establish a process to risk rate vulnerabilities based on the exploitability and potential impact of the vulnerability and segmented by appropriate groups of assets. Example, DMZ servers, internal network servers, desktops, laptops. So here what we're saying, and this is a difficult one actually, because each type of vulnerability will have a different type of impact in different types of organizations, on different types of systems, on different types of applications. So we should, if you have the resources and if you have the time, then it's always better to actually evaluate if you need that particular patch or not, because that particular patch which is being suggested by the vendor may be related to, may be unrelated to your environment, or it may be related to particular features which you're not even using. So it's always better to evaluate the patch and what that patch is going to do before you implement the patch, and to risk rate it so that you know what vulnerability is there, what is the criticality of that vulnerability, and what's the potential impact. Apply patches for the riskiest vulnerabilities first, the most critical ones first. A phased rollout can be used to minimize the impact to the organization. It's always better to break up all the entire big task into pieces and establish expected patching timelines based on the risk rating level. That's all that we have for this module. Thank you.